Hi, welcome back. And now we're going to talk about how to accelerate your career. And the speaker that we have is Alina. She is a senior manager at KPMG in the UK, and she has recently recognized by the 2 awards in the UK technologies as one of the future women leaders in the industry. And she actually excelled in her career from an entry level analyst to a senior manager within a large corporation in 6 years, which is 2 to 3 times quicker than her peers. And I leave it over to you, Alina. Welcome.
Hi everyone. Peggy and Ali, thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm going to share the screen in a moment, but I'm just going to do some intros in terms of my journey. I guess, as Peggy mentioned, I am very honored being here with you today and you listening to my story. I really feel that each one of you will have success in her career. And in a way, I'm slightly jealous because you have so much on your journey ahead of you. I just want to say that my journey has been successful over the last few years, and I'm here today to share my stories and my practical advice. I did indeed grow very quickly since I came to the UK 6 years ago, and I did come as a new joiner, as a graduate analyst, and I've excelled quite quickly to a senior manager. I did won 2 of the industry awards, and my name is also on a few lists, such as Software Power List for Women, and also the Most Admired Women in Technology UK. But what is important is I wasn't always successful. And in fact, for a very long time, I struggled with my confidence and I struggled in a way with my understanding of myself. And I want to share my journey with you and the specific practical advice which I think is going to help you today. I guess I was brought up in Russia, and the reason I'm saying about this is quite exciting story, I hope, and hopefully motivating. I was brought up to be a housewife, so it had nothing to do with technology or women in business. And at some point, I really wanted to raise my standards because I felt that I could achieve something myself. I put a very big impact on my education. So I did go to the best university in Russia after winning the Moscow Olympiad in maths. I think when I first started my work, it was in a much lower level career. So I used to perhaps mop floors in McDonald's, and that was around 10 years ago. I at some point realized that it's really important to keep going. And I have applied to quite a lot of jobs in the UK. I've applied to maybe 500 jobs and I received 497 rejections. What kept me going is the fact that I really wanted to achieve success. And I found it interesting whether I could or possibly I couldn't achieve it. I didn't really have the role models at the time for myself. And I was genuinely interested, can I do it or maybe not? And I remember when I had my final interview, which actually did get me a job, I was sitting in London, in UK, in the office, and the partner asked me, so tell me, show me, how are you motivated for this job? And I guess I said, the truth, really. So I did wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning. I flew 4 hours between Moscow and London. I spent 1 hour on the border just to realize that there is a traffic strike and I can't actually get to the interview on time. So this has proved to be inspiring. I guess I did get a job at the time. And this is how I started my career in technology 6 years ago. Now, the workshop today, and I'm just going to share my screen, it's about accelerating your career. And I think what is important around it is just for your understanding why this could be meaningful for you. Can I just check that you can see the screen? Because I can't see the responses. I guess why this could be really important for you is if you imagine that you are young and you are already successful, you have a network and you have a career, you can focus on something else. So what I found is some people may want to have a family quite early, or perhaps they want to choose a different career track. And the fact that you're successful quite early enables you to have this network, to have the relationships, and to have the lifestyle, which perhaps would be interesting and suitable for you to excel. I guess if I talk about myself today versus where I was 6 years ago, I meet very senior people that work in financial services and technology, and usually I'm the only woman in the room. Usually I'm the youngest woman in the room as well. If I talk about last week or even today, I've been doing a few of the YouTube videos and also Spotify podcasts, and this allows me to show and to extend my presence. And I think finally, I have some of the interesting people to who I perhaps never thought I would speak in the past. So they would be like Miss Russia, who happens to support the women in technology and the women in the business agenda. And then also different interesting people like Global Head of Innovation, different startups and fintechs. Now, I hope that I hopefully have inspired you. But what I want to talk to today is three key areas which I think really helped me achieve success, and I really hope will help you. I want to make it more practical because I think listening to things may be not the only way you can become successful. So I'm going to share some of the practices I do. The three areas are around asking for feedback, increasing your confidence, and accelerating motivation. Let's start with the first one. So I'll first start with a small story. That is maybe my first week in the UK when I just moved to the UK. I was a bit of a curiosity because I didn't really fit in. I was the only person in my start group of 100 people who was not British. So I really stood out in terms of how I talk, how I walk, what I say, how do I behave. And there were some funny stories. So the funny stories could be that my team shot a movie where I was a Russian lady spy who was taking the confidential documents from the client and then selling them to KGB. There were perhaps less funny stories where I just genuinely didn't fit in. For example, when my buddy, my work colleague, asked me, "How was your week?" I pretty much told him about every single problem I had. And those were like, I got kicked out of the house and I wasn't paid the salary and I was living in a place without any heating and mirror. So I had to come to the office and essentially take a shower. And I think what I realized is it's very important to adapt. It's adapting your behavior, not necessarily changing your personality, because your individuality is very, very important. But it's more how do you think about, I guess, your audience and how do you adapt accordingly to get the best outcome? So I think in terms of the feedback, I would say that there are 5 key steps which I do, and I do them regularly. I have been doing them when I was junior, and I still continue doing them as I became successful. In fact, in my firm, in KPMG, my team and my boss, they really feel that this is my strength versus my peers. And this is something which has helped me accelerate my career and progress much faster. What I tend to do is I choose different areas. So it could be your presentation skills. And I ask all my colleagues, my peers, the people that work for me, or the people that are above me, or the people who are clients and mentors, I ask them for feedback, and then I structure it. And let me show you an example. So I think if you choose an activity, the important thing is it gives you the focus. So you actually think through and you think about it yourself. What is it what I did? What is it that I feel proud of? And what are my areas for development? So this is a true and honest reflection of yourself. And this is something which helps you structure the conversation. I think the second step, as I said, is asking people for feedback. And I think what is important here is if you ask 5 people, 10 people, and to be honest, I ask about 80 people during 6 months, you would get different perceptions on perhaps the same pieces of work you worked on. And what this really means is you will understand how to interact with different stakeholders, because perhaps somebody perceives you in a different way, or you will clearly be able to identify your areas of development. And what I'm trying to show on this slide is just an example of how I would structure my feedback. So if I have one focus area, presentation skills, there are different feedbacks which you could receive from your peers, and you should do your self-assessment of how authentic and how relevant it is to you. And what is it you need to do? Do you need to work on the area of development because 5 people told you that you need to improve? Or do you need to adapt? Do you need to adapt to this specific person? Now, if I bring my personal example, once I had a lady and she gave me feedback. I really, really liked your work, but actually you kept on talking about the other team all the time, and I didn't quite like it. So I would adapt my feedback. I would adapt my behavior with her. So next time I speak to her, I just don't, talk about that team. And this could work for you as well. Now, the fourth step, which I think is probably the most important, it's making a targeted action plan for yourself. Once you identify the areas of focus, once you prioritized, it's very important to understand what is your action plan and how you can hold yourself accountable. So I think what's important is to take your first action just within 24 hours or maybe 1 or 2 days. The reason for it is you need to start on the journey of your development, and it will help you if you start actioning straight away. It doesn't have to be a huge action. It could be something like taking notice of how you speak, if it's public speaking, or it could be, asking for further information or researching the courses. Now, you will have a list of things, maybe 10, 15 actions you may want to do over the next 2, 3 months. But it's very important that once you make a plan, you action, you action. You don't just put it away and forget about it. And I think something which helps me hold myself accountable to, my actions is actually getting the quick feedback, like the second feedback loop from the same person after maybe a month, and essentially asking, do you think I got better? Do you think you see a difference? And the reality is, in 1 month, you may not change substantially, but even if there is like small points which you have improved, it's going to help you in 2 ways. Number one, you will be able to build your confidence and your motivation because you'll be able to, believe in yourself and to say, I'm on the right track. If I keep going, this person and everyone else will see the outcome. And I think the second thing, which is why I do this quite early in the process, I want to see if there is no change, maybe I should do something differently. Maybe I should correct my actions. So I guess if I summarize, asking for feedback is important. What is even more important is actioning on the back of it and adapting your behavior. because the quicker you can adapt, the quicker you can grow. Now, I'll go to the next slide, and it's around increasing your confidence. To be honest, I struggled on my journey with confidence at different points in time. But the one example I want to show is something which happened 2 or 3 years ago. Now, the context was that I used to work really a lot, and it wasn't really bringing me too far. I was broadly happy with my job. I wasn't earning too much money, and I wanted to be promoted. Now, my project said that yes, we can promote you, so I felt quite confident. But then one of the key decision makers felt that I don't really belong to the next level, and I was also rolled off the project. There was also an HR concern in relation to that. So what this essentially did is I went from being performing, in fact, highly performing, to being non-performing. And this has affected my confidence pretty badly. I want to share with you 2 things which help me improve my confidence and hopefully will help you. So one is about mentorship. Now, what I see in the corporates, at least in the UK, usually you would have a mentor who's assigned to you. They can be called differently. It would be a career manager, a performance manager, but ultimately the idea is that they help you drive your career. Now, the challenge I find with that is usually you are automatically assigned somebody and you don't really know whether you two, click together, whether the person really wants to help you, whether he will help you accelerate. And what I found out is very, very important 2 things. Number one, finding a mentor who, you really like and who understands your situation, who can fight for you, who can give you ongoing fair feedback and essentially ensure that the people around you see you, getting better in a positive light. And I think the second thing, which is very, very important, is the fact that if you find this person, stick to him, because if you like him and if, all the other things are in place, like he understands you, he cares about you, he can make you successful, it's a very rare match. So keep it and make it work. I do want to share that you don't have to limit yourself to just one mentor. It can be different mentors for different areas. But the idea really is if that person is successful in the area where you want to become better, for example, public speaking or career, let's say in technology, then it would be a good example for you. And the more pushing he can be to you, the more inspiring and coaching, the better it will help you, bridge the gap and progress your career. I think the second thing is, I guess, a diary of achievements. And the reason I want to mention it is if you think about your confidence, it comes from inside. Other people can praise you, like your mentors, your managers, but it's more about what is in your head. What do you actually, believe about yourself? Do you think you can do it and you will do it? And I think one practice I found comes from the psychology. It's called Diary of Achievements. It may be called something else in different countries. But essentially, you find a very beautiful notebook and you write down every single day all the achievements, all the wins, however small and insignificant they could seem to the wider world, but they are important to you. And you write them down and you are proud around what you've done. And if I talk about myself, making a talk in front of the audience or maybe cooking a new meal, it's something where I come out of my new comfort zone. It's not too significant. It's not as big as getting a new job or getting a degree, but it's something we all need to celebrate on a daily basis. And I think it helps you in 2 ways. Number one, you really understand what is it you've done, what you're proud of, and you are grateful for what you have. And then number two, if you're not confident for whatever reason, you reread your achievements and it makes you feel better. And essentially, you feel that if you've done everything, all of these 20 pages, 60 pages of stuff, you're definitely going to succeed. And it makes you calmer and it makes you more confident. So I think if I summarize, and I'll probably go back to my earlier slide, confidence is really very important. Sometimes we see that we can struggle with confidence, but you can find two tools, such as mentors and a diary of achievements, or something similar, which would really help you on an external and internal side to grow your confidence. It is a basis which will allow you to move forward, to improve yourself. And I think the third area, as I said, what I want to talk to you today is about motivation. And I think the personal story really is, as I was in my career, in particular in my first year, I was struggling a lot. I think my job was okay. I didn't really have too much of a personal life. I didn't know anybody in the UK. I was constantly having housing challenges because I moved maybe 25 houses in 2, 3 years. So it was very easy for me at the time to perhaps go back to Russia and, to forget about the fact that it took me 1 or 2 years to find a job. Now, there was something which kept on moving me. And the thing which kept on moving me is I haven't actually seen anyone succeed in this before. And what could I do to make it different? I had an interest. I wanted to perhaps explore what is it I can do differently and how this potentially could impact the wider people. And what I started doing over and over again, I started taking small steps to find the balance across the key areas. Now, if I talk about the balance, what I found out is you could be really very successful in your career or, for example, in your relationship. But when you don't have a balance, say you have a problem with your housing situation, it will impact your work. So it won't actually make you move as quickly as you want. And because of this, I want to share exercise with you, which is again from psychology, but it can be used for work environment as well. It's called a wheel of balance, or sometimes the wheel of happiness. And the idea behind it is you may want to think about the areas that really matter to you. So I've listed 8 areas on the right which matter to me, but you may want to choose something else. And they can be across different areas. They say it could be 6 or maybe 8 or maybe 10 areas. It doesn't really matter. But the idea is you have a wheel, right, with the axis. So you have 0 to 10, and you need to score yourself in an authentic way. What do you really feel? How good is your career doing? Versus how good is your family doing? Versus how good is your health? And essentially, you're going to come to a picture. And this is a real life picture because it's quite hard to find a balance at the same time. You will probably find that some of the areas you have, you score them as a 5. And some of the areas you have, you score them as an 8, right? And some you score as a 3. Now, when you have a disbalance, you may want to focus on the areas which you want to bring upwards. So in this example, maybe family comes as a disbalance. So you may want to prioritize focusing on it before you focus on your appearance, for example. And what is important about this wheel of balance is similar to the feedback. You can prioritize the areas of focus. You can have an action plan for the next 2, 3 months. And similar to feedback, you action. right? But you have an element of prioritization. And what I tend to say is it's important to repeat this exercise maybe every 3 months or maybe every 6 months, because as you progress in one area, you may have potentially a disbalance in another area. I've seen this exercise shown quite a lot in different psychological webinars and masterclasses, and I've started applying it to my situation when I had a disbalance. I think that it did help me definitely to structure the areas and also in a way to hold myself accountable. I think if I just go back, the key things for motivation, it is important that you have the high standards, that you set the goals and that you achieve them. I think in my example, say when I wanted to go from working in McDonald's to doing something better in life, that was raising my standards at the time. I think the second thing is not waiting for the inspiration to come to you. I think what is very important is you may not feel motivated all the time, and you may feel that you are tired or you're stressed and you don't really want to change anything. But the reality is, inspiration doesn't really come to you as you wait for it, and you have to action to get to it. Which brings me to my third point. I think one of the key things which really helped me was taking an action and taking the steps. They could be small steps, they could be small actions, but it's getting into the mode of doing something, and then you get the inspiration and you get the ability, to progress. And as you see the feedback from other people, as you see some improvements in your life, this motivates you even more to step up and to progress with the rest of the actions. I do think what is quite important is inspiration doesn't come to you straight away, and you shouldn't necessarily sit and expect for it to happen, but it's very important to take action. And I think what I want to finish off today is just by saying that probably each one of you, is able, is capable, and is more than capable to succeed whatever you want to do. So there may be something which you need to improve, such as the structure and the actioning part, but all of this is something which everybody can do. And I think what really changed my mindset at the time, I guess, when I was looking for a different job or when I was going for promotions, is understanding that people who are maybe partners or directors or maybe senior people, they're just the same people as us. And they don't really have any superpowers. So whatever you do, as long as you have motivation and structure and you adapt your behavior, you can achieve exactly the same or even better. And I think with those words, I'm just going to pass it back to Ali and Peggy. I guess let me know if you want to get in touch, and I'm sure the girls will share my details as well.
Thank you so much, Alina. That was fantastic. Really, really insightful. And it's great to see your journey that you've been on as well. You've shown sheer resilience and determination, and I think it's super inspiring. So thank you for sharing. And again, I think it's all around self-reflection when it comes to asking for feedback as well. You also touched on mentoring as well, Alina, and I'd like to ask, what qualities do you feel make a good mentor? What should people be looking out for if they're trying to secure a mentor?
I guess, to be honest, it's very important to try to identify somebody who you like. And I think there are different opportunities. So there are the different mentorship schemes which exist. Some of them are targeted specifically at women in technology. And I'm part of some of them, like-minded females in the UK, and also Kajigo, which is actually global. And I would actually say that like-minded females are global as well. You can find online, perhaps there are the other ones. But I think what is important is, starting the action of trying to find this mentor. You may not find him straight away, because it took me 9 people, I think, in 6 years to come to the person who I really like. So, and sometimes you would find them and they may have, alternative priorities at some point in life. So I would start with that, and I would also try reaching out to maybe some people on LinkedIn, because, for example, Ali and myself met on LinkedIn, and I think I was quite supportive. But you would have the same with other even senior people as well. So sometimes you would be able to approach people you never thought you can approach by actually being open and honest about what is it you want to achieve and how they can help.
Perfect. I think it's all about just being genuine when you're trying to network as well, and be proactive, like you said in your presentation, Alina. And for you, what is the single greatest piece of advice when it comes to accelerating your career that you take action on every day and that you can share with our watchers?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing for me is, getting up in the morning and feeling whether you actually are going to achieve something. If there is the meaningful positivity or something which you have, which the day is going to bring to you. And it could be something which is work related, but it can be something wider. And I think what's important for me is, as you give back to the community, the society, to your work or whatever it is, you get back the positive energy so you can actually excel yourself better. Whereas if you kind of don't do anything and feel miserable all the time, it kind of doesn't let you accelerate fast enough.
And with the pandemic and again, all of the uncertainties going on in the world and working from home, how have you kept yourself motivated? Because I speak to so many people who are really starting to struggle with that.
Yeah, so I think my story was perhaps slightly different, and I'll probably share what happened with me in the pandemic on a personal level. I mean, we didn't really stop working, so we did have quite a lot of work. I think I started actually taking much more attention of my health and well-being, and I lost 16 kilograms, I think, in 5 months by taken on a healthy diet and the routine of walking and actually going outside. I think I am. It's not correct to say that I was always throughout the pandemic completely motivated. But I think what has been helping me is keeping this positivity, sharing with the others, some sort of advice, or if it helps across different areas, and then just trying to, not to go down, but to be positive and optimistic. I think, similar as Vanessa said before me, it is quite important. I think what motivated me is the fact that I was seeing results, like with my diet, and I appreciate it's not work, but I saw results and it kept me going. With my work, I guess I got an award, I got second award, I got promoted, and it kept me going. So it was taking these few steps and then, keeping motivated on the back of it.
That's it. I think it's celebrating the little wins throughout the day as well, especially if you're working from home. That's so important to keep you going and to keep you motivated. Alina, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. And I'm sure if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to you through LinkedIn, as you mentioned. Amazing.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Alina. So we're going to take a quick 2-minute break for anyone to get a drink, and then we'll be back with our HR career panel.